All right, so today what we're going to do is we are going to visit about the Great Compromise. We're going to talk about the different plans that we had during the Constitutional Convention and how everything kind of compromised together. So you're going to fill out all the information on this graphic organizer, but first we're going to start down here at the very bottom. A couple pieces of information just to remind you is that this all happened during the Constitutional Convention. Now, the Constitutional Convention originally was to amend the AOC. However, the AOC was so terrible that we ended up having to just throw it out. And when we threw it out, we had to come up with a new plan. So we came up with the Constitution. Now, the Constitution, it was written at the end of the summer of 1787. Is when it was written. Now the problem is that we still had to function under the laws and rules of the Articles of Confederation. So everybody had to agree to do this, and so there was a lot of problems because at the end of this, we're going to see that a lot of people had their own personal views on stuff, and they were not willing to compromise. And today, our key word is compromise. Now, what a compromise is where two groups give a little to make a big idea work. And that's what we're going to look at today, is how these two different groups were able to give a little and to make things work. Now, the first thing that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the large states. Now, large states, we talked about how they had large populations. You read about that, and we did that in our presentations. We had large populations. Now, the large states, obviously, they're going to want to have representation based on population. Now, they're going to want this whole thing based on the population of the state. This is going to be known as the Virginia Plan. And it's only going to be supported by those states that have a large population, which makes sense. That they're going to want to find a way to have the more say because they have the more people. Now, the small states, they're not going to fall for that plan very easily. They want to continue the way it was under the Articles of Confederation, where we had equal representation. For each state. So everybody has the same amount of say. This is going to be especially for smaller population states, small pop states. And this is going to be called the New Jersey Plan. Now, with these two plans, we had an opportunity for basically the whole Constitution to crash and come down. However, everybody was able to make a compromise. And the compromise, which is called the Great Compromise, was basically we would combine the two plans. And by combining those two plans, what we're going to do is we're going to create a bicameral legislature. Now, this bicameral legislature, remember this prefix right here, bi means two. And so we're going to have two house legislature, and we're going to separate the powers of the country. So what we're going to have is on one side, one of the houses is called the Senate. And in the Senate, there are two people from every state. And so by having everybody there, this is going to be like the New Jersey plan. Idea from the New Jersey plan. Now, on the other side, the other house is what we call today our House of Representatives. I'm just going to say House of Rep. Now, under the House of Rep, we're going to have the number of representatives based on state population. So this is the idea from the Virginia plan. Okay, so we're going to have these two plans all in there put together. Now, the other problem that we had was the idea of slavery. Now, slavery is going to be another huge issue because slavery has always been a hot button issue when it comes to America. Now, in the South, basically the South said slaves should count in state population for representatives. What they were saying is that they are people, therefore they should count in there, but even though they were treated as less than people. Now in the North at the same time said that the slaves should not, they said that slaves should count. If that's the way they want to go, fine, slaves should count as count when they determine taxes. Basically, if you're going to count them as a person here, well, we have to tax them. And so the slave owners were going to have to pay those taxes. So what they did is they came up with this idea of the Three-Fifths Compromise. And with the Three-Fifths Compromise was that they would count as part of representation, they would count as part of taxes, count for rep and tax, like they're 3/5 of a person, or every 5 slaves equal 3 people. All right. And so this is what the Great Compromise is going to end up doing. So what I want you to do is finish getting all this information down, and we will review this again, but I want to make sure you have that.